Everything discussed during the Level Up podcast with me, Duayne Pearce, is based solely on my own personal experiences and those experiences of my guests. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. We recommend that you obtain your own professional advice in respect to the topics discussed during this podcast.
Something that led me towards you was the fact that you want to help people out there, and I want to do that too.
Hello and welcome to Level Up with Duayne Pearce. My dream is to improve the residential building industry for all involved. Throughout this podcast, we're going to be chatting to all types of industry experts to make sure that builders, tradies and clients all have a fantastic experience. All right, guys, how you going? So we're back in the shed with Level Up, and today's a pretty exciting one because we've got Michael Ross here, which I've been definitely keeping an eye on for the last probably 3 to 4 years. He keeps popping up on my social media.
Yep.
And mate, you guys are just killing it. So
thank you, mate.
Would you like to introduce yourself a bit and tell us a little bit about MR Design?
Sure. Well, obviously residential building designer. Very passionate about it. Left uni 8 years ago, studied architecture. Mate, first firm, met my 2 business partners. And then went elsewhere, did commercial for a while. Realised commercial's a bit repetitive for me. Yeah. I needed to get out there and, I don't know, create something unique. And I've always loved residential. My parents built a lot of homes. Yeah. So that's why I decided with Ryan, M&R, Michael Ryan, to let's just go out on our own and give it a crack.
So tell us a little bit about the MR, like how that came about.
Yeah, sure. So originally it was just myself, MR, just freelancing on the side doing decks and carports for friends. Like I said, I always loved resi, so I was open to doing any type of work. Yeah. And then Ryan, as many people know, got sick from leukemia and he had to leave the firm that I met him at. So I ended up scoring, don't know if you know the ARP boys, Solaire, they do a lot of work with Joe Adset. Yeah. He's an old friend. So he reached out and said, hey, I've got a big extension in Auchenflower, which was our first project. And I reached out to Ryan. At the time, knew he wasn't working. I was working full time. I said, mate, I've got this job, but it's a bit out of my reach. I would have screwed it up pretty good, I reckon. So I said, do you want it? And so he said, yeah, and he took it. And mate, that was 5 years ago now. We had a dinner with my wife and we said, let's just do this. Let's just go for it. Yeah. And then we worked out, M&R, Michael, Ryan, like we've got the brand in. He didn't like my logo, so we changed it to what it is now. And I said, that's fine. I used to have a green logo. He hated it. Anyway. And so, yeah, we started the business and we're working out of Ryan's garage. I quit my job, which was a big leap. My old man, he's a bit of an entrepreneur, he calls himself, and he's got a lot of balls and he convinced me to just go for it. Yeah. Lied to mum, said I had 6 months of work when I had a couple of weeks worth. Anyway, mate, it was good. It was a great start.
Well, looking back now, look at where you've come.
Sometimes I stand in the office, mate, late at night and just super proud of what we created, and then losing Rye 2 years ago, it had just gone 2 years. On Saturday, that was hard, but without him we wouldn't be here, and that's why I like to talk about him a lot because, like, I don't want to make other people sad. I just like to bring him up, even when I meet people on consults. They ask about, tell us about the start of MR. He was just a major part of it. He was like an older brother to me, and we couldn't have done it without him. So wherever Hayden and I take this, so Hayden, Ryan, and I used to work together at a firm. Wherever we take this, he'll always be a part of it. We'll always represent that. Yeah, mate, he was our senior. Couldn't have done it without him. Honestly, coming back from commercial and a resi, where I've gone in my own skills in knowing town planning and certification engineering around residential work. When I started, I couldn't have done it without Ryan. Yeah. By the time he passed, Hayden and I, we were at his level. So anyway, we're thankful for that.
Hayden's come on board now?
Yep, so he came on board about 3 or 4 years ago. So, after a year, we hired a couple of guys, Adam and Anush. Anush is still with us. He's my right-hand man. I love him to bits. He's a great designer. He's come a long way, actually. That's probably been one of my favourite bits about working for myself. is watching my team develop.
Building a team.
Yeah, and knowing that I was a part of that. So
getting them on the same page, I guess, to go along the lines that you want to go. So, like, how many staff does MR Design have?
Well, there's been a bit of a change around lately. A few archi jobs out there, but 10's pretty much our number.
Yeah.
So Hayden came on 3 years ago. So he's my co-director. We have Anika. She's an interior designer. She also does a lot of NDIS work, so I knew commercial codes. So I got with a builder who's renovating all over Queensland. And then, mate, what do we have? Anush, and now we've got Aaron has just come on as our seniors. And then we've got 4 young lads.
That's awesome, mate. So, like I said, you guys have... You've really sort of come from nowhere. Like I said, you're always popping up on my Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and
well, it's good to know.
I think, like, obviously, I'm very passionate about building and design and things. I've been in the industry a long time now, and I just think Brisbane has come such a long way. Like, even in the last 6 or 8 years.
Much longer.
Don't remind me, mate. But like, just there seems to be a lot more. I don't know if it's getting influenced by Sydney and Melbourne, or there's more money around or whatever, but the quality of the houses getting designed by yourself and heaps of other firms around Brisbane is just insane.
Well, I think it comes down to a couple of the leading architects in Brisbane, like Joe Adset, Sean Lockyer, Tim Stewart for a bit there, Myers Elliott. I really love their work. I think those guys kind of created that. I've only been in the industry for 8 years. I think those guys definitely created I guess a high-end market in Brisbane, but also like you're touching on, I've had heaps of clients sign up who moved up from Victoria and New South Wales because of obviously you've got this COVID restrictions going on. People are working from home, so they're coming up to State places like the Sunny Coast and Gold Coast, and property prices here are just going crazy. With the Olympics coming as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty exciting. Like for me, that's just another 10, 12 years of just really good, strong growth. But it's like also, I think a big driver of it as well. Like there's obviously a few builders in Brisbane now that are just smashing the social media, and like I just think it's so good for South East Queensland.
Absolutely, mate. Very good point. It's not just the architects; it's also the builders aspiring to do great things as well. And social media is so important in the industry.
It's important with everything, mate. Look, it's one thing that I definitely struggled to get on board with for a long time. Everyone used to ask me about it, and all my mates and friends and family were on it, and I used to ignore it. But it's an incredibly powerful tool for business.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really love it. But like, so tell us a little bit about your experience. Like, obviously you're quite young. Like jumping in the deep end, like sort of telling a few porcupines to get going.
Yeah.
But like, tell us your story and like maybe some of the challenges you've had from when you started to now.
I'd definitely say the biggest challenge, and I'm seeing it now. So, I agree, I'm young. My young lads at work give me a lot of shit. They think I'm pretty old. So I'm seeing it now with Anush, for instance. He's in his mid-20s, and, we're getting him into sales. He's going out and doing consults, which is, to me, after 5 years, it's easy. People are kind of give him the vibe he's too young. That's something that I struggled with. You're 25, mid-20s. Yep. How do you actually know what you're talking about? But I've always been someone who's very confident. People can find it arrogant at times. But I don't know. Whenever I was given an opportunity, I hit it as hard as I could. I put in the hours. The challenges for us, we had a discussion about it. I remember when we started, the idea of telling someone that, my contract was going to be $5,000 scared the hell out of me. Yeah. But now, it's just a part of business. And at the end of the day, you're just a service. And as long as you're giving it your best, then you're worth the price that you put down. Yeah,
I think that's a really big thing we teach in one of my other businesses, where we teach builders. But it's like you got to get away. And our industry is so bad for it. Like I'm really trying to change that with our pack process. But everyone gets caught in this horrible cycle of competing on price.
Yes.
You shouldn't be competing on anything. You should be selling your service.
Absolutely.
And selling your product.
Yeah.
And that will speak for itself.
Yes.
When you get all your systems and processes in place and your team,
absolutely.
I definitely, obviously our team's chopped and changed a bit over the years, but I definitely wouldn't be where I am now without certain people behind me and a team. Like we got an incredible team behind us for the last few years, but there's so much to know. Like when you start a business, and I think you're the same from what you're saying. Like you get into the business, like you got in it because you love design, but you probably didn't know much about the business side of things.
Not at all, mate. Well, the funny thing is I started a business. So I had an eBay business prior, but I mean, that wasn't a full-time job. It was a side gig me and which is now my wife were working on. My old man has always been a bit of an entrepreneur, and he convinced me that I should have a crack at myself, like I said. Mate, I'm 5 years in. Every year I'm much smarter business-wise, but I'm still learning constantly. You know, I've been kicking myself the last week about, you know, like a quote or I think it's a good thing though. I think the people who are really hard on themselves will push themselves to be better. And will continue and continue. Like, would you say you still learn? Like,
mate, I don't think you ever stop learning.
No,
I think honestly, I think that's what held me back for so long because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't open my mind up to learning more. Like, mate, I'm like a sponge now. Like like audible books, talking to people, asking advice. Like, and I think, like you just touched on before, I think Aussies seem to be bad for it. Like they, if you come across too forward, they do think you're a bit arrogant.
Bit of tall poppy syndrome, mate.
And
like, people hate me in a few years, you know?
And look, mate, 10, 12 years ago, when we were doing some really big stuff in Brisbane, like we had the same sort of thing. And, and look, I thought nothing of it, but looking back now, like I was very closed-minded. I think everyone just has to be open-minded and learn and be willing to take on new things. And I think the more you do that, the more you'll grow, the better your team will be, all that sort of stuff.
Not everyone has the mindset of that. Like I'm big on if you're failing, even though I really put myself down for it, and you're not learning. You know, if you're not putting yourself out there and doing experiences like this, how are you going to grow and learn? I think it's something like, so my business partner, Hayden, it's something that's not his mindset, but he's better. His mindset's better for being organized and things that I'm not. So I think everyone has lots of different lessons to learn about themselves when running a business.
Oh, mate, definitely 100%. And that's, like people do get scared of failure. But at the end of the day, like there's no business in the world or person in the world, especially in big business, that would be where they are without failing. It's just nobody. They don't talk about failure. Whereas people that don't get ahead, they focus on the failure instead of focusing on. Like one of my big things now is that there's never a problem. There's always a solution. Like,
absolutely.
You've just got to work through it, and whether that means
don't put emotion into it. That's a big one.
Like and be open to talking to other people and speaking your mind and taking information on board. So, mate, for a younger guy or girl out there that's maybe considering starting their own business, whatever it is, like what advice would you give?
I'll tell them it's going to be hard. The first 2 years, like, you know, you'll scrape by. But if you're persistent and your heart's in it, you know, I'm very passionate about architecture. You'll make it. You know, I don't know. It's funny being at a point now where I've grown to 10 years. Like I love you've been following us for 4 years because you've seen most of our journey. I meet people now and, you know, they're just amazed. But it has taken hard work and years. Advice for people starting out: the best thing you can do is network. It doesn't matter the number of coffees I've had where it goes nowhere, but that 10% of people you meet, like yourself, where something could come from that. You know, I've met my best consultants and together we've grown our businesses. If you're not putting yourself out there, you know, a lot of people have social anxiety. It's not something I have. I can understand that. But you got to put yourself out there. A lot of people don't have business partners. I found having a business partner that if I was stressing out one week, especially, you know, when we were like, mate, the first Christmas we got through with like $300, you know, we just made it. And Ryan was freaking out. I was like, it's going to be okay. Having a business partner has always been good, and I really recommend it to people. There will be tension at times, but as long as you both don't put emotion into it, you'll be fine. Have a business partner so that in your off week that they'll keep you grounded, and then vice versa. A lot of people don't, like, so many people think you just get into business and it's just all going to be sunshine. Like, no.
mate, like you're good if you only had your first Christmas. Like I probably had the first 5 or 6. Definitely some hard times there, but I guess that again, that's what makes you stronger. And I guess for people out there that are in the industry, because some people, like I was going down the path. A lot of people in my family are in the industry, and I was going down that path. Like I knew there was problems, and I would try and talk to people in the industry about it, especially older builders. And I would just get the comeback like, mate, that's the industry, deal with it. And I basically got to a point where I was like, fuck that. Like that. I'm not going to live my whole life like struggling with money, not having cash flow, having horrible situations with clients and all that sort of thing. And it wasn't until I sort of stepped up and owned it and I started doing something about it to change it. And mate, from there it's just snowballed. And I think there is a lot of people out there in all types of businesses that are very scared to speak up because I don't know why, but at the end of the day, all businesses struggle. Like even some of the biggest businesses have tough times. So
I think I'm lucky and grateful. I've never been to the point where, you know, I also starting young was good because, you know, I didn't have a wife at the time. I could move back to my parents. I didn't have kids. You know, like I don't have kids yet, and something that led me towards you was the fact that you want to help people out there, and I want to do that too. I want like there must be people out there like builders you work with that may just lay awake at night because they don't know how they're going to feed their family or keep a roof over their heads. I've never been to that stage, and I'm grateful for that. I'm sure you would learn a lot more about business, how hard business can be when you're in that position.
I did. Well, it took me a long time. Like, it took me a long time of going through those situations to, because the thing for me, mate, like, and so I don't believe anything I see on social media. Like I know there's a lot of builders out there, Brisbane, Australia, the world, that on face value, you watch their social medias, they're doing these incredible homes.
It's image.
I know for a fact there's a lot of them that would not be making any money. And like that was my position. Like back in sort of 2012, 2010, like 2012, we got voted multiple times in the top 10 homes in Brisbane. So face value, everyone thought we were killing it.
That's it.
Like we were getting suppliers, buddy, taking us on overseas trips, and like people throwing stuff at us, but behind the scenes, mate, it was a mess. Like we weren't making any money. It was horrible. But I think all businesses are dealing with that. But you really got to just have the balls, I guess, to step up, own it, and like I think one thing for me, like I said, was getting away from other people in the industry. But mate, tell us, like, what's your background? Like, what drove you to get into design?
I'll probably talk about my father a lot. He's just my idol. So I'll tell you a quick life story. Old man used to fly F-111s in the RAF, and I grew up down in Sale. Then we moved up to Amberley when I was 10 or younger. I've been here ever since. My parents always built homes. So it was either was I going to be a pilot or was I going to, you know, I grew up in Blade display homes and I hated it at the time, you know, but obviously it rubbed off. I was considering, you know, aviation. My old man said it can get pretty boring and repetitive though, even flying jets. You just kind of sit there for a while. Anyway, I did it in school. I did architecture and graphics. I love two things I love. I love a puzzle. And I love being a part of people's journeys. You know, it's something that I try to give off. The vibe is, you know, you've got people online trying to be funny for their business. I just want to show my passion, mate. Something that brings a tear to my eye is rocking up to the finished build and the clients are so happy because their dream home is done. And it's just like I was a part of that journey. So obviously, I just think of being raised right. You know, my parents raised me right to care about other people. And I think, God, if everyone actually looked out for others in the world, life would be so much easier.
Oh, mate, I couldn't agree more. Like, it really annoys me. Everyone, like, people bag people out or see shit on social media, and like they don't know the story behind it or where it's coming from and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's amazing. Like,
I think everyone judges. Like, we'll judge, but you got to stop yourself. And anyway, I lived up in Brisbane ever since, and I love puzzles, and that's architecture. It's just I spend hours, like my wife doesn't know why or how I do it. I spend hours just sitting at night just moving rooms around trying to get by. I just love it. And mate, I'm someone who gets bored so easily. Like I go through games just, a computer nerd, mate. I mean, look at me, I just sit in front of a computer all day. Play a lot of games. I go through games so quickly, but for some reason, architecture, I'm so ridiculously passionate about.
Yeah.
Don't know why. It's just my thing, So I'm glad I went down this path, and I'm glad I got to be creative, and I'm super glad I started my own business because I felt like I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to answer to myself.
Yeah. So what like I from the little bit I sort of see with design and architecture, there's been a big shift in the last maybe 4 to 5 years. Like,
In what way?
Like people being more building designers rather than going to the next level and becoming an architect.
Something I get asked a lot.
So tell us a little bit about what your thoughts on that.
Well, I didn't even know building designs existed when I came out of uni, to be honest. I went into architecture, studied hard, got the good OP, went into architecture. Then I came out of uni. I had trouble getting a job. I worked at Macca's for 8 years. And then, mate, which is, I love
You know how to make a Big Mac.
That's in my, mate, I don't cook very often. I always tell my wife if she built me a Macca's kitchen or we designed, I'd make her a good Big Mac. So, no, it was good times. That was my party days, a lot of freedom back then. Anyway, then I don't mind giving a shout. Synergy Building Design, they gave me my first opportunity and chance. And I went to a couple of architects, didn't get interviewed. It's very competitive. Right now, I've had a couple lads leave recently because there's a lot of jobs popping up because I think everyone's expecting Brisbane to ramp up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't even know building design was a thing. So Hayden and Ryan, my business partners, they studied at TAFE for 2 years. So if you want to, we actually prefer to hire building design TAFE kids over uni kids because in uni, for 5 years, I learned how to design museums, but I loved residential. And whilst they were actually learning how to build a house for 2 years, I came out and Ryan asked me to draw a subfloor plan and I didn't even know which way the barriers and joists ran.
Yeah, right.
And Hayden had been, similar age. He'd been working for 3 years already.
Yeah.
And I'd just been, partying and working at Macca's and designing more museums.
Yeah.
Architects are quite expensive, but I think they're clever that way because you were just talking before about how if all builders actually work together, we could actually define our value, the value we're worth.
Yeah.
Architects were very good at that. And then I think building designers have come in and to try and dominate the industry, we are cheaper.
Yeah.
And I like to think, it depends who you go to, but I like to say to people, they ask me all the time, what's a building designer, what's an architect? And I just say, in terms of residential, I have the same skills and knowledge, but I cannot call myself an architect.
Yeah.
I don't really care for the title. Some of my young lads who work with us do, and they once recently moved on because of that.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm just doing what I love. So the question I get asked all the time, it's a bit of a stupid name though, building designer instead of architect.
Mate, I love it. I think like we do work for both architects and building designers. It's like I got asked to speak, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago at the annual Building Designers Conference down Adelaide.
Yeah.
And I was actually blown away when I was down there. There was a couple of hundred designers and architects there. Like, there's actually a lot of architects joining up with those guys now. Yeah. And I think I've actually never thought it, like you just hit a nail on the head. Like architects do seem to do like all the infrastructure work, the museums, the government buildings and all that sort of stuff. And look, don't get me wrong, there's definitely architects that do incredible homes. But I think that level of building designer is just like, it just keeps to seem creeping up.
Absolutely.
And like, well, obviously yours and like some of the other guys we do work for in Brisbane and even around
Chris
the world.
Clout, I think, he's up the coast. I think he was one of the leading guys for us that showed that just because we're building designers doesn't mean we can't do high-end multi-million-dollar homes.
Yeah, but like the work that is getting put out there is just like, some of it's just fantastic. Like even by just following you, like seeing like when you started, you were doing like lots of little back extensions and front carports.
Driving to Ipswich for decks I never got paid for.
And like to see where you've come from, like over the last 4 to 6 years is pretty incredible. Like some of the
thanks, mate.
Some of the the images of the homes you got in the works now are insane. So good on you for doing what you're doing.
Thanks, mate. Well, I have to give a shout out to our animator who we put on, Carl, this year, because he has really stepped up our rendering game.
Yeah.
Clients just love pretty pictures, mate.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are visual.
Anyone who doesn't read plans, it tends to be most helpful to the wives. They love being able to, on our meeting room TV, I have my laptop there, we virtually walk them through.
Yeah.
I think, so my granddad was an architectural draftsman, did lots of mechanical as well. But he thinks I'm a bit lazy that I can't just picture it. But I think with technology, you can actually help the client picture it. And it's so much more effective. I'd rather, instead of sit with them and sketch for an hour and go away for 2 weeks and then sit and sketch, I can sit with them for 3 hours with my laptop, and you want to see some options? Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
That for clients is amazing. Otherwise, I feel if there's some, draftsman out there, or the old way was that clients couldn't picture it until it was built. Yeah. And then it's just too late.
Well, and I think the industry is just so old fashioned. And
yeah, absolutely. Traditional. The builders and even old architects.
Yeah. And look, one of my goals, I just got sick and tired of everyone, as soon as they knew I was a builder, it didn't matter where I was, calling the pub to have a beer, at a family barbecue, birthday function, whatever it was. Yep. As soon as someone heard I was a builder, the horror stories just kept flowing. So, and I just got sick and tired of it. And so one of my goals was to improve my business enough so that it got to a point where people enjoyed the process so much they wanted to do it again. And we're incredibly proud because we've actually built a couple of homes for people that it was their forever home. And that was the goal right from the beginning. And they've enjoyed it so much that they've lived in the house for 12 months and we've got an email saying, hey, you're not going to believe this. We want to sell and do it again.
Well, it's great, mate. Repeat clients.
And so much of that is I'm all for that. I'm as you know, I'm all for spending as much time as I can prior to signing the building contract with designers, architects, homeowners, all that sort of thing. Because I think a lot of clients don't get that opportunity to have the time to visualize things,
or have a builder involved early to know they can actually build it.
And it is, even for me, we've done some pretty complicated homes. Imagining what it's going to go from a flat piece of paper to when you actually build it can be a big thing. And to think that
it's a daunting process for people who don't know what's going on. And so I've heard heaps of horror stories too, whether it's design or builds. And
you've got to. I just look back now and everything that we have such a successful business now and what we do, and I just look back all the time and think, why did we do it like that? Why would I get emailed a set of drawings from someone, be asked to price a job, put a price on it, send it back, never have met them face to face, never had any conversations about what their family, what they want, is it a holiday home, is it their home, all these things, and then your price gets accepted, you start building, and then first week on the site, there's I wasn't expecting that window there or that wall there, and before you know it, you're rebuilding things. There's variations, and
if I can recommend anything to clients, it's make all your decisions prior and just stick to it. Get your full documentation put together. I don't care how many. We don't charge for variations in design development. You need 2 means you need 10, fine, but do it now. Do it before documentation. We get a builder involved, or at least a couple builders involved early on in that process to make sure first we're on budget. And then, and same with interior. Get that knocked out. Clients who go into construction and change things constantly, it becomes a mess. And especially with delays on materials and finishes and fixtures at the moment. I keep telling people, if you don't just make a selection and stick to it,
lock it in,
well, you're going to drive the builder nuts, and it's going to be a bad process for you as well.
So you guys do the whole shebang. You go from
we don't project manage builds. We take them to the build. Something that I think as we get more into high end, we will start project managing. Something I need to develop my skills on more. So
but you do selections, interiors.
Mate. So we have a Nika in house. So it's it's an extra service should they want that. I can recommend other good interiors around Brisbane, like KJK Interiors. Work with Karen a lot. I do recommend it to them. Any clients over the 800 to over $1 million mark really need to have that involved. If they're doing a basic raise and build and they seem confident, that's fine. Go for it.
It's the only way. Without doing that, the builder doesn't know what he's pricing. Like, and then it's another reason why there's so many variations. Like,
absolutely.
you can't. It's all good to have the structure and the I guess the intent there, but without knowing what you want on the floors, the walls, the ceilings, the bathroom fixtures, all those things, like that in itself, like especially on an $800 to $1 million job, like that could change a job by $500,000.
Oh man, I tell this all the time. I got a job. I got a job in Newmarket. Budget started 600. I showed them, you know, and I'm very honest. Like, hey, there is this idea, but it is going to push your budget. We're very on point about budget. I think you just talked to some people recently who you've been able to convince that budget is super important. Anyway, got to 900. They loved the idea. Based on their finishes, 1.4 jumped $500,000, which is crazy, but they went fully high end. So absolutely. Yeah. And I think the big problem is most people go finance themselves out to the absolute max. My wife and I did it with our house. You know, we kept pushing the boundaries because we wanted more. But then if you got a builder coming back saying, hey, I need more money because what I allowed isn't enough, even though the builder has that right, then what do you do? Like, how's the client get that money? And the other,
like, that's a, so that's the other thing. Like, clients can go both ways. Like, so a lot of clients, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but they're not educated. And one of my big hates is so much of our industry, and this is why I'm so passionate about what's happening in Brisbane at the moment, because for so long, if you wanted to build a house, you had to go to a bloody master builder's housing estate and look at like $200,000 and $300,000 project homes,
plantation metrics on that stuff.
And then that was what was guiding you. And then when you go out to the custom home market, your expectations are like they're just unachievable. And so many people, we get it quite a bit. Like they will tell us that their budget's whatever, 500 or 600. But once we educate them, once we educate them, they've actually got more money. They just didn't understand what it would take to get what they wanted.
I thought you were going to say the opposite. You know, sometimes get like a Metricon bill for 300, 400. But you reckon 6 to 8 for the house I want.
Oh well, we definitely get those as well.
It's custom design though, you know, unless you want to build off the plan. And I mean, look, geez, the way the industry has gone, you know, the project builders, all those cheap builders, they're really suffering right now because of all the price increases. Custom builders. So, you know what really surprised me is like you won all those awards back in 2012, and I looked all that up too. I didn't realize that I found it surprised you were just like, you know, you were scraping at the time. You were just getting through. That blows my mind, I guess.
Mate, without naming names, like there's, even just at the most recent Master Builders Award, like I like a huge percentage of the builders that won awards there, I know are struggling in business. It's
this year's been crazy for builders,
and it's just like I said, mate. It's that whole perception. Like people see the finished house, and and like don't get me wrong, like we did have jobs where we made really good money, but then we had jobs where we just like everything we made on that one got completely chewed up on the other one.
That's scary.
Look, the biggest thing for us, and I think it'd be exactly the same for your industry, so many builders don't know what it takes to run their business. So they might be able to price a job perfectly to right down to the last bit of tie down. But and then they'll throw 10 or 15% on it, and they don't understand that with their work vehicles, their phones, their insurances, their staff and office, running all these costs. Things. That's like 10%. Or more.
Well, if you're like, let's be honest, builders are good with their hands. I'm shit house with my hands, right? I can barely hang a bloody a shower rail. You should see it. It's crooked. My wife just laughed. I was like, hey, at least I make money designing. I forgot where I was going with that one.
Well, at least you're honest, mate.
Oh, very honest. Too bloody honest, I've been told.
But I think it's across the board with any industries and people that are wanting to get into business. And that I know, looking back, that's exactly how I got into trouble because my passion was the carpentry and then the building. And I started the building business and that was still my passion. But then you go from, and like you've talked about it, like you go from like I'm on the tools working for someone, I start getting a few cashies and things, and then that grows. So then I leave my job, I start doing full-time work, then I put an employee. So I'm still the builder, but I haven't taken a step back to realise, well, shit, how's all these costs getting covered?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, where I was going to go was, I'm more of a computer nerd. I'm good with Excel sheets. I'm good at working out numbers, but builders or any person that isn't, like I really, a lot of it comes down to my old man. He just he just fed on me that he's always called himself entrepreneur podcast, and he really gave me that mindset to do this. And I think you got to find a mentor.
Yeah.
If that's another advice I can give someone, there are people out there. I helped this young guy who's starting a drafting business, and he was shocked that I was like, mate, call me anytime with a question. You're like, you got to have people to help you out. And I've got a couple of business consultants. Anyway, builders are good with their hands. So yeah, how do they know, to run? And most of the time their wives are just there around in their home. And also the thing that I've struggled with, our problem has been that we've always been too busy, which I know sounds like a stupid problem, but it's been rare for us to step back and be like, that was a dumb decision, and make business development. The only time I step back is the 2 or 3 weeks off of Christmas. So
and that you do, like, you just get, and when you do great work, which you guys are obviously doing, it just snowballs, and then you don't end up with any time, and it doesn't matter if it's a year later or 10 years later, like it just keeps going and going.
My old boss said to me, you want organic growth. You want growth that you can work with whilst developing. And I know it's silly to say, but a lot of people, friends know, like, have been quite successful. That has gone with its own disadvantages. If you skyrocket up exponentially, you got to hold on. That was my old man's biggest fear. Him ever starting a business was, what if it's really successful? Well, you just put your bloody head down and you work 70-hour weeks. So,
mate, what advice could you give for people out there that are thinking about building or renovating? Like, what should they be, I guess, looking for with guys like yourself?
Well, I mean, the big one, and I know you're big on this, and you got to get a builder involved early. I even sometimes take builders out to a second free consult to make people a bit more realistic. Like you said, people aren't educated, but that's fine. We're not educated about whatever their profession is. My wife's a lawyer. I don't know anything about law. The advice is just, I don't know, I guess a bit of it is hope that you get the right people to talk to, genuine people, because there are sharks out there.
So relationship?
Absolutely. I think meet with a few people. I expect that when I go meet someone, they've met with a couple others. I hope they have. You need to meet with a few people and get a vibe. It's, like, this person seems genuine. I trust them. And then again, so get a good designer to start with, and then get a good builder. Even if you just start with a builder, but we do a lot of work where builders sign the clients up for the whole process, and then we jump in to do the design side and run them through approvals. That would be my advice from my side.
It goes, like, gut feel goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Done it. Like, I've definitely learned that in business, and I think, like, the best projects we have, well, like, these days it's every project, but even in the past, like, the best projects we always had were ones that we just, like, we gelled. It was no different to, I guess, when you're younger and dating and stuff. Like, you've got to have that connection. If you don't have that connection, there's always going to be that little bit of, I guess, conflict and
miscommunication. Miscommunication's a big one too. For anyone running a business, you will know this. Communication with clients is key. I'm always ramming this into my young team. Like, guys, it doesn't matter if you're not doing anything for 2 weeks. You let the clients know that you don't need to do anything. Otherwise, I get a phone call saying, what the hell's going on, even though things are running smoothly. Because building is a daunting process. Like design, most people, they meet us 6 months to a year until you get to construction. And then you got 6 months to a year for construction. It's a 2-year process. Should everything actually, like a big project, go well, mate, I've seen almost a divorce over it. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that journey as well.
I think it's great that you give people that advice, mate. Like, we do the same thing. Like, again, it's just honesty. Like, tell people that it is a long process. It can be very stressful at times. Like, it's all part of the journey. And again, that's where that relationship comes into it. Like, you've got to be able to have those conversations.
Well, I think that's been a big part of our success, is that we're very honest with people and we're genuine that we want to do good work. I'm just really touched because I just have my head down working hard. I'm touched when I hear people like you say you're doing great things. I talked to clients from my first year that I did like a kitchen reno deck extension, and they were like, "We knew you were going to make it," and that just blows me away because
that's awesome.
Well, mate, running a business, most of the time it's doubt. It's like, You know, oh, things are great. Oh, I should have done better there. You know, things are great. Just constant like that.
So, mate, what's your goals? Like, what's like? Obviously, you've come. Like you've had incredible success.
I know my goal. My goal is to be the next Joe Adset.
Yeah.
And you know, he's someone that people talk about. Or Sean Lockyer. I loved his work for over a decade, mate. I'm very passionate about high-end residential. I want to get into property development because I do spend. I start a business to work for myself, but if my phone rings, I have to pick up clients, right? So it would be nice for half of my projects to be my own, so that I can, I don't know, have a bit more, not financial freedom, but a bit more time, especially with my wife and I soon to have kids.
Yeah.
But my main goal, and same with Hayden and Anush, like most of my team, mate, we're so passionate about residential architecture, and we just want to make a name for ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think you're definitely on the right track to do that. But and it's like doing your own projects is fantastic. Like and especially if you from you're the designer, so you can have a crack at anything, can't you?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, mate, the first design would be the design, and you spend a lot of time with clients going around in circles, but that's a part of the process.
Yeah.
And I never, that's them learning, or that's how clients need to get to a point where they're happy and confident so that the build can run smooth.
Yeah.
And that life can be a bit easier for the builder or anyone involved.
Yeah, so, that's fantastic. So, like, I guess we'll wrap it up shortly. But for you, young guy in business, doing really well. You seem to be pretty level-headed. Like you're pretty grounded.
Try.
What's your mate? What do you do to chill out? What's your thing?
Love hanging out with the wife. Walk our 2 dachshunds. Like I said, not the dogs I wanted. But don't even put them in my tray and my Hilux, mate. I don't know why I have a raised Hilux. They sleep in the bed. They are fur babies, as my wife calls them. Mate, I'm very social, as you can probably tell. Family's massive. I always grew up with grandparents close. I've got a younger brother and sister, that would soon all have kids. So family's a big one for me. I like to go out, have a bit of party, dance. For me, I also like solitude though. Like you might be the same. When you turned on all day, to be honest, mate, after this, I'm going to go home. I'll have a drink and I might do some designing and watch some Netflix and just chill out. Yeah.
What's on Netflix, mate?
Oh, at the moment, I've been watching, it's on binge actually. I've been watching Alone. It's like they chuck 10 people out into Alaska and you got to survive 100 days.
I love it.
Mate, it's pretty harsh. There's bears chasing them and my wife hates it, but I think it's great.
Honestly, I wouldn't have picked that.
I'd be more stereotypical. I love grand designs.
Yeah.
Mate, I'd love to be the next Kevin McLeod.
Yeah.
I'd love to host. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Mainly just hanging out with friends. That's mainly it for me.
No, that's awesome, mate. Well, you never know, mate. I think the way you're going, you might be on that grand design show.
We'll see. Probably the same hairline as Kevin McLeod as well, but that's all right. So, yeah.
Well, mate, look, really appreciate your time. And,
my pleasure.
Giving people advice and having a talk about what you got going on out there. I think Brisbane's going to see a lot of you over the coming years. So,
thanks.
Yeah, congratulations on what you're doing.
Cheers,
and where
mate.
you're heading.
Thank you for having me.
No worries.